Discover the touching reveal: how a new cleaning lady helped 6-year-old twins find their voice. Emily's mind raced as she squeezed the last bit of ketchup onto the kids' plates. Mia and Jake sat at the table, their little bodies hunched over their food, shoveling bites into their mouths as if avoiding the world around them. The clock ticked down to the moment when she'd leave for another exhausting shift at the diner. Her heart sank every time she saw the way they clung to their chairs, shyly stealing glances at the other kids out on the street, raps of delight and energy spilling forth from their laughter. Emily tried to connect with them but felt an invisible wall separating her from her spirited twins. She wondered with a pang in her heart if this loneliness, this overwhelming distance, was her fault. The bills piled up, opaque reminders of an existence that offered little promise or reprieve. Hiring Clara, the unfamiliar cleaning lady with a sunny disposition, was a bitter necessity that filled her with guilt. Was she too tired to do it all herself? Would her kids feel abandoned in the care of someone else? Yet as the night drew in and she wiped down windows in the dim light of too many late hours, the anxiety of their isolation consumed her thoughts. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Clara began to work her magic, scrubbing floors and straightening up the chaos, Emily could hear muffled giggles from the living room. The cadence of Clara's storytelling tightened the air in the house, turning the mundane into an enchanting dreamscape. Clenching her teeth, she felt torn. Could she really allow this woman, a stranger in their home, to influence her twins in ways she couldn't perceive? What simple, mundane things had she overlooked in her struggle? It felt as if Clara was weaving through her maternal instincts, tugging at threads she had stitched together with care for years. Then came the talent show in their living room, an idea Clara believed would showcase Mia and Jake's hidden spark. Emily felt her heart sink. What if they faltered? What if Clara's exuberance backfired? Her mind swirled with self-doubt. Children could be cruel. She thought back to her own moments of vulnerability as a young girl. She couldn't imagine what it would do to them if they suffered rejection. When Mia timidly adjusted her princess dress and Jake fidgeted with his toy, fear gripped Emily. Gone was the amusement of light-hearted storytelling, replaced by anxiety so thick you could cut it with a knife. It all culminated when an old acquaintance from Clara's past unexpectedly walked through the door, veins of tension spreading into the room like ink in water. The shadows of Clara's history, once obscured, loomed just above the surface. Would this unravel the progress Mia and Jake had made? As they prepared to showcase their abilities, Emily was left standing at the precipice of an emotional storm, teetering between chaos, disbelief, and hope for a family transformed. Each second dragged like an eternity, the weight of uncertainty pressing down. What would happen next? The murmur of voices filled the room, blending into an anxious hum that swirled around Emily like a menacing fog. She was acutely aware of the stakes. Right there on the brink of what could either be a breakthrough or a catastrophe stood Mia and Jake, their small figures at the center of unwritten narratives. Emily clutched the edge of the table, drawing strength from the wood as she wrestled with doubt. Could the cleaning lady's presence somehow outshine her role as their mother? Crackling laughter from Clara cut through her clouded thoughts. It was infectious, but Emily felt a creeping jealousy. How could this stranger effortlessly inspire her children, while Emily struggled to draw them out? Envy was unwelcome, yet it occupied a prominent space in her mind and gnawed at her heart. The thought of fading into the background while Clara became the vibrant tapestry in Mia and Jake's lives felt unbearable. As Clara coaxed Mia into showing off her newfound confidence, Emily's breath hitched. This was more than just a talent show. It was an invitation for validation, a call for her twins' voices to ring clear against the backdrop of their insecurities. But what if they tried and failed? The risks felt overwhelming. In her heart, She knew the scars of childhood rejection could run deep, and she longed to protect her children from any such wounds. Yet the laughter from the twins mingled with Clara's encouragement, a symphony of innocence that jolted Emily toward a realization. Perhaps she had been focusing on the weaknesses lurking beneath the surface instead of nurturing the strengths lying dormant inside her children. A flicker of hope ignited within her. What if she allowed herself to step back even just a little? Could Clara's role actually enrich their lives rather than detract from her own? That glimmer of possibilities momentarily drowned out the noise of fear. In that instant, Emily knew she would have to reveal her own vulnerabilities, her own past heartaches to resonate with her children's experiences. It was crucial to show them that taking risks was part of life. Not everyone would love you, and that was okay. This message was something she had always undersold. She leaned closer, watching as Mia spun in her twinkling dress, finding joy in the whirls and laughter of her brother. The sight kindled a flicker of something almost lost: pride. It was a reminder of the resilience she'd always believed they had but hadn't seen in action before. The back-and-forth moment between Clara's vivacity and her children's laughter gradually transformed the atmosphere. The mood shifted like blazing sunlight breaking free from a haze of storm clouds. Knowing she could no longer let fear dictate her choices, Emily swallowed hard and cheered them on, her voice ringing clear and unrestrained as she joined Clara's exuberance. "Go on. Show us what you've got." The surprise on Mia's face was eclipsed by joy. The prospect of the approval she craved spurred her on. Jake beamed, mirroring his sister, brimming with enthusiasm. As Emily clapped and shouted for them, an unforeseen surge of encouragement filled her spirit. The walls of her doubt began to crumble, and a realization took root. She was still an integral part of their success. While Clara illuminated a path, it was Emily's love that would guide them along it. But just as the scene settled into what felt like a long-overdue triumph, Clara flinched, momentarily distracted by the sudden change in the atmosphere and the arrival of the old acquaintance, now glaringly prominent and intrusive. Emily's heart pounded in her chest as she registered Clara's dismay. What would this unexpected arrival do to the fragile equilibrium they had achieved? The question loomed large over the household, momentarily darkening the light that had barely begun to shine through. How would this connection impact not only Clara, but also her children, and Emily's place in the intricate fabric of their lives? The answers hung just out of reach, teasing her nerves as uncertainty loomed once more. Clara's expression tightened for a split second, her smile wavering as the stranger's silhouette entered the room like a storm cloud obscuring the sun. The unfamiliar face had something unsettling about it, sending ripples of discomfort through Emily. She could feel the tension in the air shift, her heart quickening. Would this new arrival unsettle the balance she had just found between confidence and doubt? Mia and Jake, oblivious to the undercurrent swirling around them, continued their impromptu show, laughing and twirling. Their innocence felt fragile, something that could easily be shattered. Emily glanced at Clara, catching a glimpse of a hidden worry. It struck her that perhaps Clara was just as affected as she was. This revelation opened a door to empathy in Emily's heart. Taking a deep breath, she steadied her voice. "You did amazing. Keep going." Her encouragement felt desperate, but it also grounded her. She couldn't allow this newcomer's presence to eclipse the moments of triumph her children were experiencing. She had fought too long against her insecurities to let them surface now. The newcomer, a man she quickly identified as an old friend of Clara's, stood awkwardly in the doorway. His eyes roamed the room, darting between the joyful children and an uncertain Clara. Emily could sense his judgment, not overtly hostile, but critical all the same. He wanted to interject, to exert a sense of control, but she wasn't about to let him. Clenching her fists, she felt a surge of determination rising from within. This was her family, her moment to reclaim both her children's joy and her place as their mother. As she drew closer to her children, she reached out gently, a protective aura forming around them. "Hey, what's next?" she asked, her tone light yet firm, directing her focus back to the twins. They paused, glancing at her with wide eyes. The shift allowed Emily to draw strength from her role, reminding herself that it wasn't about the impressions made by others. It was about cultivating a nurturing environment for Mia and Jake to let their voices soar. Watching them, Emily understood that this was not simply about the performance. It reflected their progress against the insecurities that had plagued her own life. Here, with Clara and this man in the background, whoever he was, the kids were finding confidence within themselves. She knew she had to root for that growth even when shadows loomed nearby. "Let's try something new," Emily suggested, her heart racing with the thrill of the challenge. "You both can show us some dance moves. I want to see those twirls heartily." Instantly, Mia lit up, her face alight with glee. Jake's infectious laughter echoed, the embodiment of encouragement, and for the first time, doubt slipped from Emily's grasp. As the twins started to dance, Clara subtly reassured them with claps and cheers, and Emily couldn't help but smile at the camaraderie between them. Yet she also kept one cautious eye on the stranger, who still lingered in the doorway like a hawk waiting to swoop in. What was his intention, she wondered. The laughter that filled the room was infectious, but it was laced with uncertainty about what this man might do next. Clara's earlier confidence faltered, and for an instant, Emily felt the shadows creeping back, loss of control tightening its grip around her heart once more. In this delicate moment of joy laced with tension, Emily had a decision to make. Should she confront this unwelcome presence, or was it wiser to let things play out, trusting Mia and Jake to find their way? If her instincts were correct, the next minutes would shape not only the narrative of the evening but the very foundation of her relationship with her children and Clara. The air shimmered with anticipation as she weighed her options, her hand subconsciously tightening around Jake's. The moment loomed before her, ripe with possibility and fear. Now was the time for clarity, for personal growth that she had yet to fully embrace. Would she allow fear to dictate her actions once again, or would this be the moment she chose to stand firmly against the encroaching darkness? As the music turned down low, Emily felt the spotlight shift. The question remained, how far would she go to protect what she was beginning to understand about herself? Emily's heart raced as the sweet melody softened, the room pulsating with nervous energy. The joy emanating from Mia and Jake felt primal, a reaction to the instinctual energy swirling around them. As their hands brushed against one another, Emily considered her position in that fragile balance. She was the wall against the winds of uncertainty. But could she sustain this? She angled her body toward Clara, who was contending with her own discomfort. This man, the stranger with an unsettling air, seemed poised to disrupt their small sanctuary of joy. Emily felt anger tended thickly within her, a heavy, tangible emotion. Why should some random figure hold any sway over their happiness? "Let's keep dancing," she exclaimed more emphatically, emboldened by the need to shield her children from whatever judgment this man might cast. The last remnants of doubt began to dwindle as she thrust her arms upward, inviting them to join her in a different game, a more playful spirit. "I want to see your best dance moves. Who can leap the highest?" Mia and Jake exchanged glances, the spark of competition igniting their excitement. They bounded around her, laughter bubbling up again. Yet while their twirling forms provided a much-needed distraction, Emily stole glances at Clara, whose eyes reflected a mix of concern and determination. Clara was standing an arm's length from the stranger, both of them anchored in a shadow of history Emily couldn't quite grasp. The dynamic felt oppressive, holding Clara in quiet sway. "Everything all right?" Emily inquired softly, hoping to breach that unsteady ground. Clara's gaze shifted away from the twins and toward Emily, uncertainty lingering there but also a flicker of gratitude. "I'm not sure," Clara admitted, her voice barely above a whisper, as if confessing to some invisible restriction. He's been around for a while now. Just don't know what he intends with this visit." Emily recognized this man's presence was more than a mere disruption. It threatened the hard-won journey she, Clara, and the twins were on. All the careful building blocks they'd stacked, brick by deliberate brick, could easily tumble into chaos. Suddenly, the familiar voice of self-doubt crept back. What if this stranger meant to drag Clara back into a past that would dim the light in her friend's eyes? Clara was relying on Emily, but was she strong enough to protect her friend as well as her children? Determined to break that hold, Emily flicked her gaze back to her kids as they performed a particularly vivid leap, pulling the attention of Clara along with it. "Look at them. This is who we are. This is what we celebrate," Emily said, her voice firm. Jake shouted, "I can be a superhero." In the midst of their laughter and in that very instant, Emily saw the light surge within him. It was contagious, rendering her resolve unshakable. They would not be pulled down by whatever residual shadows haunted Clara. They had found each other and they would guard that connection fiercely. She turned back to the stranger, her face purposefully steady. The tension in the air shifted again, thickening with unspoken confrontations. "Maybe you should join us," she suggested boldly, planting her feet firmly. "We could use a third superhero." The air turned electric with the challenge, and she could almost hear her own heartbeat intensifying, urging her to remain steadfast. Would this man accept, or would he shatter the spirit they had built? With the laughter of her children echoing around her, she prepared herself for the possibility of confrontation. She was ready to face whatever conflict loomed, fiercely intent on solidifying not only her own strength, but also the resilience of the bonds she held dear. Yet beneath that facade of courage, a swirling uncertainty emerged. How would the stranger react to her open invitation? Would he take it as a challenge, testing her resolve? As she watched the interplay of joy and tension, a deeper realization settled in Emily's mind. This was not just about Clara or the man lingering at the doorway. It was about her, about discovering how fiercely she could stand, fight, and protect the joy that had started to blossom in their lives. But as the silence stretched between them, waiting on an answer that felt precarious, she couldn't help but wonder how much further her bravery could be tested in this moment. How many layers of her own fears would she peel back in order to secure the light for those she loved? The question lingered in her heart, nudging at the edge of her courage. Would this be the moment she learned to command her fears, or would she falter, allowing them to dictate the unfolding story? The moment hung in the air, thick with tension. The stranger's brow furrowed and Emily held her breath, thoroughly aware that this no longer felt like mere playtime, but a pivotal crossroads. "Why should I?" he replied, the edge in his voice cutting through the playful atmosphere. The cheerfulness radiating from Mia and Jake faltered slightly, their laughter hanging on the precipice of unease. But Emily's heart didn't waver. It pounded with indignation and resilience. "Because," she asserted, "life's more enjoyable when you join others instead of tearing them apart." She felt the weight of her words. This wasn't just a challenge issued to the stranger. It was a reflection of her own evolution. In that fleeting moment, clarity spread through her like sunlight piercing clouds. She had always been the protector, the one who held everything together. But what was she protecting if not joy? What was the value of bravado if it wasn't laced with the promise of connection? She sensed a shift within her that stirred new resolve. But could she maintain it through the uncertainty swirling around them? The stranger straightened, his lips pursed in an unreadable expression. Clara's eyes darted between them, straddling the line of support and apprehension. Emily made a mental note. She had to tread carefully, yet boldly. Her gaze softened as she flicked back to her kids, who suddenly seemed willing to embody the very essence of the moment. "Watch how high we can jump," Mia shouted, her enthusiasm bubbling over the edge of fear. For a second, Emily felt the encouragement emanate from her daughter, a reminder that wisdom often comes in pure, innocent forms. "Okay," Jake chimed in, determination lighting his face. "Let's do it together." As they launched into animated leaps, Emily felt her footing steadied by their energy. The stranger remained unmoved for a breath longer, but the shift around them was palpable. He seemed to assess the situation, caught between the dim echoes of his past and the lively light emitted from the children and their simple yet profound invitation. "What's the worst that could happen?" Emily pushed through clenched teeth, her inner turmoil battling bravely against the fear of his possible rejection. Clara's support felt buoyant, igniting something within her that was both protective and empowering. Emily had claimed the authority in her own narrative. Finally, the stranger stepped forward, uncertain yet intrigued. Perhaps it was the laughter, Or perhaps it was the challenge that disarmed him, peeling away his hardened exterior. "All right then," he relented with a hint of hesitation. "Let's see if I can keep up." Emily felt a staggering wave of relief mixed with new tension. Would this be the breakthrough Clara needed? Would this be the moment the darkness receded enough for her friend to breathe freely? Their laughter mingled, forming a fragile thread binding them together. In that instant, her own courage soared. She had reached into the depths of her fear and emerged not just as a wall of protection but as a bridge of connection. Yet, conflicted thoughts churned within her. Had she successfully dismantled the stranger's menace? Or had she invited in a greater uncertainty, one she couldn't control? As the twins bounced around, laughter rising like a phoenix, a singular thought flickered in Emily's mind. The journey ahead wouldn't merely be about safeguarding Clara from her past. It would be about establishing mutual strength, an interdependence that could weather any storm. While she beamed at the small victory, the gravity of future choices loomed before her. Would this newfound alliance prove indicative of a more profound healing? Could Clara truly reshape her story, not just escape it? As the room filled with tentative joy, Emily found herself walking a tightrope. What deeper revelations awaited them all? She took in a sharp breath, more aware than ever of the challenges ahead. The burgeoning sense of determination underpinned by uncertainty made her pulse race with newly ignited energy. What discoveries might reveal themselves, hiding in the shadows of tomorrow? Just as she caught Clara's eye with a reassuring glance, a sudden noise startled her, a loud crash from beyond their sanctuary. What new disruption awaited them? Emily's heart quickened, and with it came a surge of purpose. She would remain steadfast in her resolution, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The crash reverberated through the air, slicing the moment's fragile joy. Instinctively, Emily pivoted toward the door, heart racing as fear snarled within her. What had broken? Her mind raced through possibilities. Was it the fragile trinkets arranged on the nearby shelf, or perhaps a window being carelessly flung open? The laughter of the twins faded into a wary silence, their eyes wide with uncertainty. "Stay close," she instructed gently, the protective instinct surging stronger than the swirl of anxiety in her chest. The comforting weight of Clara's presence at her side steadied her. They exchanged a quick, unspoken acknowledgement, a mutual understanding of the circumstances that meant they had to confront whatever lay beyond. As she stepped cautiously towards the door, Emily took a deep breath, trying to quell the knot in her stomach. She was no longer just a protector but also a guide, navigating her children and her friend through the murky waters of fear and past experiences. Each step was imbued with the tension of unknown repercussions but also a burgeoning resolve to face whatever threat loomed. Flinging open the door, she was met with the sight of overturned gardening tools and a toppled flower pot on the porch, dirt spilling like a broken dam. Emily had half expected something more looming, more disruptive, but instead, there was only the mundane chaos of a moment disrupted. For an instant, relief flooded her system, but she quickly cooled the rush. The moment was benign but still unsettling. "Just some old tools," she called back to Mia and Jake, who peeked out from behind Clara's comforting shadow. The twins emerged slowly, eyes shifting from the fallen items to their mother, gauging her reaction. Emily made a mental note to clear the mess later. Right now, focus had to remain on them. She turned her attention to the same stranger who'd begun to thaw just moments ago, now standing awkwardly near the window. The fleeting connection they'd shared felt fragile in the aftermath of the accident, shadows playing tricks on the edges of their encounter. "You all right?" he queried, an edge of uncertainty still lacing his inquiry. "Yeah," she nodded, encouraging the flicker of camaraderie that had sporadically ignited. "Unpredictable, isn't it?" The words held more than just a comment about the mess. They reflected their current state and perhaps their journey together. "Guess so. Sometimes things need to fall apart to be rebuilt," he replied, offering a faint smile that illuminated the tension that hung between them. In that moment, Emily felt layers of her self-imposed walls begin to crack. The past few days had unveiled a personal reckoning, and each interaction felt volcanic, bubbling just beneath the surface. This stranger, the one she perceived as a potential threat, could be more than that. It was perplexing, this urge to uncover what lay buried beneath his guarded demeanor. Perhaps he could teach her something about the complexity of human connections, just as she was learning to navigate interactions with Clara. "Let's start fresh," she managed, breaking the stilted silence. "How about we put things back together?" There was courage laced in her voice, an invitation not just into actionable support but an opening to further understanding. Mia and Jake returned to their playful romp, their laughter regaining the ground lost to fear. As laughter returned, so did Emily's curiosity. She studied the stranger's posture, the way his shoulders relaxed slightly, the uncertainty receding. She sensed an opportunity not just for herself but for the entire group, an exploration of hidden depths and intertwined growth. Clara, amiable as ever, nudged her inwardly just as Emily intended to speak again. "There's strength in vulnerability," she whispered, the words barely surfacing. "We wouldn't be here without it." With resolution simmering just beneath the surface, Emily faced the future, knowing it would demand more from her than she was prepared to give. Yet the weight of uncertainty hung there, amplifying her resolve. What truths lay beneath their pasts waiting to be uncovered? And how would that shape her journey of healing and connection? Just as she considered this newfound direction, the sound of shuffling feet echoed from inside, and a familiar face emerged. Clara's brother, once an absent figure in the narrative, stood at the threshold. Anxiety and confusion washed over Emily. What secrets had he brought with him, and how might they shift the delicate balance she had fought to establish? Emily's heart thudded as she processed the arrival of Clara's brother. A figure she hadn't seen in years, but one who conjured a rush of memories, both fond and troubling. The air thickened with unspoken histories, each of them a thread in the intricate tapestry of their lives. She could sense the twins drawing closer to her, seeking her reassurance in the unsettling moment. "Emily, right?" he ventured, his voice slightly hesitant, as if reorienting himself to the pieces of their world. She could hear the weight of the past lingering in his tone, a ghost that neither of them could shake off easily. "Yeah," she replied, forcing herself to maintain eye contact, aware that the next few moments would shape not only this encounter, but possibly their futures. "What brings you here?" He shifted awkwardly from foot to foot. The vulnerability mirrored her own, reminding her how connection often felt precarious and yet essential. "I heard about everything. Clara's been filling me in." Clara stepped forward, creating a bridge in the silence. "We were just getting to know Emily and her kids, Mia and Jake." There was warmth in her introduction, an effort to soften the edges of lingering tension. A flicker of understanding passed between them, partly born from shared experiences. Clara's brother seemed to scrutinize Emily's demeanor, and she felt her walls begin to reconstruct, fortified by her protective instincts. "Look, I'm sorry for showing up out of the blue. I know it might be strange, given the history," he said, his voice betraying a sense of regret. Emily realized this wasn't just about her discomfort. It was a moment filled with possibility for all of them. "You're welcome whenever you want to be here," she replied, surprising herself with the hospitality that emerged from within. "I think I could use all the support I can get." He nodded, the corners of his mouth lifting in a tentative smile. "Maybe we can help each other." The statement hung in the air, a weighty promise that bore the potential of friendship, trust, and healing. The twins, emboldened by the adults' tentative exchanges, began gathering the fallen tools, their previous fears dissipating like fog. Emily watched them blend playfulness with newfound determination, reminding her that resilience often emerged in the unlikeliest moments. The laughter from Mia and Jake danced through the air, barely containing the thrill of reclaiming their space and their agency. With a cautious step forward, Emily ventured, "Maybe we could all work together on this." She motioned toward the mess and, with it, the disparities within themselves that needed tending. It was an invitation disguised as a task, a shared experience where vulnerability could foster bonds and scars could transform into wisdom. Clara's brother caught her eye, and for the first time she felt a flicker of solidarity. Here was a chance to bridge divides, to navigate the complex shapes of their relationships, not only with themselves, but with the collective history that brought them to this moment. "There's a lot to rebuild from, isn't there?" he mused, his voice steadying, resonating strongly with her internal resolve. "Yeah, but it's necessary," Emily replied, emboldened by his admission and the strength of shared vulnerability. Each piece replaced could contribute not just to their immediate space, but to their emotional foundations. As the group began to clean up the porch together, an unspoken pact formed among them. They were individuals bound by overlapping circumstances, each grappling with their own narratives, yet moving toward a common goal. The process became illuminating. Every item returned to its place felt like an act of reclaiming not just their physical space, but pieces of their identities. With the chaos subsiding, Emily sensed growing curiosity within her. What stories were waiting beneath the surface of Clara's brother? What layers of his past could provide insights that resonated with her own struggles? Then, just as they settled into a rhythm of cooperation, the atmosphere shifted. A loud crash echoed from inside the house, entirely different from the earlier disturbance on the porch. Emily's stomach dropped. What could possibly have gone wrong this time? The palpable tension was now heavier as uncertainty returned, reminding her that even the smallest steps toward connection come at a cost. What new revelation awaited them in the heart of the house? Emily's breath caught in her throat at the ominous sound reverberating from within. It was a stark reminder that the fragile harmony they had just begun to rebuild could easily be shattered. Clara's brother mirrored her apprehension, his brow furrowing as the laughter of the twins halted abruptly. "Mia! Jake!" she called, trepidation creeping into her voice. They glanced up at her with wide eyes, momentarily frozen in their task. "Stay close, please." The promise of safety had always been paramount for Emily since she began her journey as a single mother, grappling with the aftermath of her past. As she approached the doorway leading into the house, the whispers of uncertainty echoed in her mind. What if the noise came from something that could jeopardize this delicate balance they had just begun to forge? With hesitant steps, she moved inside, her instincts sharpening. Clara's brother, trailing behind her, exuded a quiet presence. There was support in his company, though it awakened an unexpected sense of vulnerability within her. They were stepping into uncharted territory, the space between them both a canvas yet to be painted. Inside, the chaos unfolded into sight. A lamp lay shattered on the floor, pieces glimmering under the slant of sunlight that filtered through the window. It stood as a physical representation of her crumbling world, a reminder that she had to confront the fragments of her life before they could be pieced together again. "What happened here?" she murmured, scanning the room to ensure her kids were safe. As she stepped closer, she spotted Mia and Jake crouched near the fragments, their expressions a mixture of fear and curiosity. "I didn't mean to," Mia exclaimed, her voice trembling as she looked up at Emily. "I was trying to reach for my book on the shelf, and then Emily knelt beside them, her heart softening. "It's okay, honey, accidents happen." It felt like a chance to practice forgiveness, not just for her children, but for the child within her that had always anticipated punishment in moments of mishap. Clara's brother, kneeling next to Jake, offered a reassuring smile, a subtle reminder that they were not facing this alone. "Why don't we all clean up together?" he suggested, his tone gentle yet firm. "It'll be a team effort." The suggestion was simple, but the underlying meaning resonated deeply within Emily. This was a lesson more profound than mere cleanup. It was a chance to transform mistakes into opportunities for growth and understanding. As they carefully gathered the shards, Emily marveled at the way trust was being rebuilt, not just between her and her children, but extending toward Clara's brother as well. "See, the key is to learn from what happens, right?" he prompted gently, peering at Jake, who was focused on an especially jagged piece. "Yeah," Jake replied, his voice low but gaining strength. "Just like how we learned to build that birdhouse." With each piece of glass he placed in the makeshift container, they were shedding layers of fear, fortifying their intertwining growth. Emily felt the connection deepen. The twins were not merely her children. They were resilient, evolving individuals possessing strength akin to her own, each one capable of overcoming mistakes. As the mess diminished, An electric energy surged between them. A collective momentum focused on rebuilding not just the space, but the relational bonds that had nearly frayed into obscurity. Emily felt exhilarated, empowered by the shared experience and the budding trust among them. Just as the quiet settled, a new noise broke the silence. The front door creaked ominously. The air thickened with apprehension, reigniting the worry within Emily. Who or what could it be? The unease coiled back into her stomach like an uninvited guest. She met Clara's brother's gaze, a flicker of shared concern passing between them. What awaited them at the threshold could redefine their journey yet again. Could it be the catalyst to reveal deeper truths, both personally and collectively? With a shaky breath, she prepared herself to confront whatever lay beyond, knowing this moment might serve as a pivotal junction in their unraveling narratives. The door swung open, revealing a figure cloaked in shadows, outlined against the harsh sunlight streaming in. Emily's heart raced, uncertainty gripping her. This wasn't the moment for distress. She needed to confront whatever, or whoever, stood there with clarity. "Who is it?" she called out, her voice steadier than she felt. As the figure took a step into the light, recognition sent a shiver through her. It was Clara's estranged father, a man she had never met but had heard countless stories about, a presence that lingered in the periphery of their lives. "Hello, Emily," he said, his voice discordant with surprise and wariness. His eyes swept over the room, taking in the remnants of the shattered lamp, the cautious expressions of Mia and Jake. "I thought it was time I checked in." Emily's mind raced. The implications of his appearance were colossal. What stake could he possibly have in their lives, and what chaos might he bring? The fragile bond she had started to establish with Clara's brother felt threatened now, coiled like a taut wire ready to snap. "Why now?" she asked, gripping the edge of the doorframe. The threshold between her world and his felt like the very edge of balance. "You haven't been a part of this family for years." He shifted back slightly as if retreating from her words. "I know. I've made mistakes. But I want to make things right." Could this be genuine? Emily had learned to recognize lies masquerading as promises, especially from those she had once trusted. Her protective instincts flared. "You think you can just walk back in? You have no idea what we've built." Clara's brother moved closer, standing beside her with a solid presence. He did not need to say anything, but his silent support calmed the rising tidal wave of uncertainty stirring within her. "I want to be a part of their lives," Clara's father insisted, glancing at the children behind Emily. Their wide eyes darted between her and the man who once fled their reality. She felt the tension rise. This man might seek redemption, but what about her children's stability? What about all the setbacks she had faced alone? "This isn't just about you," she said, keeping her voice steady. "We have trust issues. I can't allow you to disrupt that." The weight of her words hung thick in the air. Yet a flicker of doubt began to creep in. Was there a part of her that hoped Clara's father might bring some wisdom or perspective that could help? Or was it madness to even entertain the idea? As the inner conflict churned, a bond forged between her and the children through shared mistakes resonated. Would it be unfair to overshadow their growth with past shadows? This was a decision that demanded introspection, not just for her, but for Mia and Jake. They deserved to have a voice in this choice. She turned to face her twins, kneeling so they were at eye level. "What do you think?" she asked softly, carefully gauging their reactions. Mia clutched Jake's hand, a reflection of shared anxiety. "I don't want him to hurt us," she whispered. "Can we trust him?" Jake added, his brow furrowed with uncertainty, mirroring their mother's own fears. Emily's heart swelled with pride at their insight. They had learned too well the nuances of safety and trust. This was not just her battle alone. Their voices mattered, arguably more than anything she could say to the man who once left them all behind. Taking a breath, she stood again, turning back to Clara's father. "This is a family decision," she asserted with newfound strength. "My children will be part of this conversation, and you need to understand that before we go any further." As they faced the uncertainty together, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that this moment might reshape them all. It was as if the future hung in delicate balance, waiting for either an embrace or a rejection of what could have been. Just then Clara's brother spoke softly, grounding the spiraling tension. "What can you offer them that would show you've changed?" His question dangled in the air, heavy with expectation. Emily felt her heart race anew, knowing full well this confrontation could carve another path forward, one of reconciliation or one of silence shadowed by past chaos. Would Clara's father rise to the occasion, or would he retreat into the darkness he had once inhabited? As silence cloaked the room, an uneasy tension filled the space, carrying with it the weight of countless decisions yet to be made. Suddenly, the question was no longer just about confronting Clara's father, but also about what revelations lay unaddressed within Emily. Would she be brave enough to embrace change regardless of the outcome? The answer lingered like a whisper, waiting to unfold in what came next. Emily stood firm, her resolve crystallizing as she faced Clara's father. The weight of the moment pressed heavily upon her. With each second that ticked by, she contemplated the enormity of the decision before her. This was no mere encounter with a long-lost relative. It was a potential turning point, a crossroad for herself, her children, and even Clara. As the silence stretched, she felt a shift within herself, a transformation ignited by the desire not just to protect her children, but to foster their growth and resilience. She realized that she had always been an anchor for Mia and Jake, steadying them through the storms of uncertainty. The time had come for them to witness her standing up against the shadows, forging a new course based on the strength of their collective voice. "Tell us how you plan to earn our trust," she stated, her voice steady with purpose. "What can you give them, not just words, but actions? It's a long road ahead, and if you want to be part of this family, you need to show that you can change." Behind her, Mia and Jake exchanged glances, their wide eyes reflecting a blend of fear and curiosity. The unrehearsed nature of their mother's strength resonated within them, lending them courage. They were learning that vulnerability could lead to empowerment and that their voices held weight. Clara's father shifted uneasily, the tension in the air palpable as he grappled with the expectations set before him. "I know I let them down before, but I want to be better. I want to be here for my daughter and for her kids, to be a real part of their lives." His sincerity, raw and unfiltered, hung in the charged atmosphere, and, with her heart steadily beating, Emily felt a flicker of hope. Was it possible that he could change? The past had certainly chased him with shadows, but perhaps confronting them could yield the light of transformation. Yet the question remained, could they, as a family, harness the power of forgiveness? "Words are only the beginning," Emily replied, feeling empowered by the support of her children. "We need to see you take steps to prove it. We all have pasts, but we also have the power to shape our futures. It won't be easy, and it can't be forced." The clarity grounded her, revealing the first seeds of strength she had always possessed but rarely acknowledged. Together with her children, they would establish boundaries, allowing space for learning, healing, and ultimately growth. Mia tugged at her mother's shirt, a gesture reflecting unspoken solidarity. "Is he going to hang out with us now?" she asked, her innocent curiosity breaking through the tension. Jake chimed in, "Yeah, what if we made a fort together? It could be fun." For the first time, Clara's father cracked a genuine smile, warmth creeping into his demeanor as he took a step forward. "I'd like that. I want to be involved in the fun parts of your lives." Emily's heart soared at her children's bravery, recognizing their ability to welcome potential while balanced with caution. They were learning to navigate complexities, to carve out their autonomy within relationships, a lesson that would serve them far beyond this moment. "Okay," she said, feeling empowered by their reactions and her own evolving understanding of family. "Let's take it one day at a time. But you have to understand, we are not just welcoming you back. This is a partnership, and you'll need to show that you mean what you say." The tension hung in the air as Clara's father nodded and stepped fully into the light. The promise of connection, however tentative, hung before them, binding their pasts and futures together in unexpected ways. As they began to forge a path forward, Emily felt a sense of resolution settle over her. She was forging not just a new relationship with Clara's father, but also redefining her own narrative. The journey forward would not be easy, but courageous steps came from facing the uncertainties that reshaped their lives. In that moment, a newfound strength anchored within Emily, a solid confidence, an established position as a mother with a voice that resonated powerfully within her family structure. They would weave together the threads of their complex lives, embracing the past while navigating a brighter future. As laughter bubbled up among them, Emily finally understood what it meant to truly nurture. She had transformed, emerging beyond her fears and insecurities, stepping into a confident role as a facilitator of growth, not just for herself, but also for her children and Clara. Recognizing the significance of this moment, she could hardly believe how far they had come. Once shackled by doubt and fear, she now stood buoyed by a commitment to empower, not just herself, but the intertwined lifelines of her children and Clara's father. Emily saw the vibrant tapestry of their lives beginning to unfurl, each moment a thread of affirmation toward a purpose-driven family story. It was a journey she welcomed, fortified by their resilience as they stepped boldly into their newfound reality of hope, trust, and connection. As she watched Clara's brother share smiles with Mia and Jake, she felt a renewed sense of direction, steadfast in her belief that they would confront challenges together, unearthing joy amid adversity and transforming shadows into strength. This was it, the evolution. Her achievement was not just overcoming her fears, but also embracing a reality filled with possibility. They had set the foundation for authentic connections and purpose, granting each other permission to rise together. As that realization anchored within her, she couldn't help but smile. They were vast and uncharted territories ahead, each moment brimming with potential, and this transformative journey was just beginning. Now, as you reflect on this powerful transformation, we urge you to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that inspire personal growth and connection. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us amplify these heartfelt narratives that truly matter. Comment your reactions and theories about this conclusion, sharing what resonates with your own journey. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this empowering conclusion. Choosing to uplift one another is how we all rise together.